Hey everybody, I'm back with something a little bit different this time. I had a request to kind of share how I pick and put together color combinations that aren't necessarily, well, the easiest ones, to follow, like if you're using, RO2, RO5, RO8, it's kind of an automatic grouping or color family. And since the project I'm working on today ended up requiring me to kind of play with colors a little bit, I thought that this would be a good opportunity to kind of share my process about all that. So, the first one that I was working on, I pulled this scrap piece of paper that I'm going to be using on the card, and I wanted to match this kind of mustardy green leaf color here. And so when I'm going through my color chart of markers, automatically I go to green, and like the most yellow green ones that are in there are the YG 95, 97, 99, and they were way too green for what the final look I wanted to get. So I knew I was going to have to add in some yellows to get this really mustard green color. So what I do is I take a scratch piece of Copic Express It, or whatever cardstock that you're using to color with, and I kind of pair up. And at first I pulled the 95, YG 95, YG 97 with some Y26 to bring in some of that mustard yellow. So what I do is I just take and do a little circle color, and that was the YG 95, and then I'd go to my darker, the YG 97. I kind of pretend I'm putting in a shadow. And then I took the Y26 over top both of them to yellow them up. And while that gave me a more yellow-green, it was still way too green for this mustard color that I want to achieve. So I have to scrap that a bit, and I totally knocked out the YG 97. And this time I did a YG 95 with a little bit of E87. It's one of the kind of green browns, and I was going to use that for my shadow. Blend it with the YG 95 a bit, so I'd still get the kind of light, medium, dark tone. And then once again try with the Y26 to yellow it up. And that gave me a little bit closer look to what I was going for, but it was still not quite as mustard as I wanted it to be. So I had to let go of the YG 95 and replace it with the only green I'm actually going to have in my combination is this YG 91. So I just started with that for my base, and then I went to my Y26 and I added in Y28. And I kept the E87 as my darkest shadow. And then I'm going to blend back down with the Y28. And then the Y26. And then just in that light area, it's not going to go over the whole thing, bring back in the YG 91 to dull it down and add a little bit of that green tone. And that finally gave me this kind of mustard green color that I was going for, and I was happy with it. So it's kind of funny it's, you know, reads as kind of a green, but there's very little green actually in this combination, other than, you know, like the E87 being kind of a green toned brown. And even the Y28, while not green, it's definitely got the grays in it that I needed to help get more towards that green look. So that was that combination. And then I had one more with this image that I'm doing, and that was just this really blue-green paper that I want to use. That's definitely got a gray undertone to it. But when I went to put it against my BG 72, 75, 78, which is kind of a go-to gray, blue-green that I use quite a bit, this combination, this automatic color family, was still a little too blue to match this paper that I wanted to use. So I chose instead, I started moving my cardstock up along the greens. I moved over to the greens to see what really matched up well with it, and actually this G28 is a really close match, other than it needing a little bit more blue in it, but otherwise it wasn't too bad. So I'm going to kind of build my combination around this G28, and so I kind of went down the line, and this G12 is a nice kind of icy green that reads towards the blue greens as well. So I chose the G12 for my lightest. I just do a little messy circle. And G28 right over top. And then to start pulling in more of the blue in the blue-green combination, I chose the BG18. Kind of work right over that G28, and then back in with my G12. And that was pretty close to the cardstock that I wanted to do, but it was still reading a little bit green compared to this. So I went back to my blue greens to a lighter one. And I debated between like a BG11 and a BG13. I thought the 11 might be a little too light to really make much of a difference. So I went with a BG13. And I'm just going to use that over top that whole thing. And that just added a little bit more blue to the color combination. But still kept it that nice green tone as well. And that's, you know, it's just fiddling around. It's taking the paper that you're wanting to match to and holding it up against your color chart and being willing to move it around. Like, even though this, you're looking at this, well, it's a blue-green paper, you don't have to stick just with the blue-greens. You know, look over here, because there's a lot of greens that have some blue in them. And it works, you know, with red paper, everything. So I just had that request, thought it would be a fun one to do since I was doing it anyway, and I hope that kind of gives you some insight into my process, and thanks for watching.